everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Holman. Here we are recording for December 10th already. I got my man, Rob Lawlisher from Road 55. Tons of headlights for us.
Headlights or headlines?
Headlines. I got a headlight in my face. That's why. How you doing this morning, man?
Well, our first headline is a little bit of, deer in the headlights. So, oh no, we got to deal with this again.
Kind of is.
Yeah, good day, Dan. It's, we're just gonna take these challenges and we're gonna take them all head on, and everyone's dealing with them in all their different ways, right? And I think if anything, that's probably one of the best parts out of this is this affects most equally, right? And anyways, we got some good stuff coming this week. We've got just recently the Alberta government did some new closure rules around COVID, and that's all happening this week. So it's going to affect a lot of, I know a lot of people that you work with, Dan, so we're going to be talking with on that story. Story out of BC talking about not everything is awesome out there, with the Lego challenges. But it's an interesting conversation just as it relates to the reliance on a major supplier. And so we're going to chat there. As good as it is, I guess, like the shift of these new opportunities, there's a story out of Manitoba talking about the challenges that this shift is making for these businesses because they truthfully weren't originally set up to operate this way. And I saw a little eye roll there. I know we're going to get right into that there, but and then Dan's going to share his 5 rules of retail, and that was all in cap, folks. So those are going to be some good rules. I'm looking forward to those. And then at the end, great topic conversation that we've chatted lots about, but just that ongoing pursuit of customer loyalty and a good story there. So our fresh off the press, the Alberta government announced yesterday all these new changes that are coming amidst, trying to crush this second wave here. Dan, a lot of different rules are going to affect the retailers and more in the province. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah. It's not just Alberta, but Alberta sort of came out Tuesday afternoon, late afternoon, with their latest set of rules and restrictions and blah, blah, blah. And of course, it immediately forced hours on the phone, which is okay. I love that ability to be a sounding board, but also to say, hey, hang on a second, let's walk back into our reality. And so I did spend the majority of Tuesday late afternoon and most into the evening. I think my last message sort of went in and out about 2 a.m. And my response was pretty similar for all. Listen, you can't change the way shit smells. You can't change the wind's direction. Yep. You can adjust your sail and still get to your destination. We can adjust and still get to our destination. We need to adapt, adjust, align, or die. It's just that simple. This direction or this decision, is ours to make. We are victims of circumstance led by, my dad used to say a victim of circumstance led by an asshole, but there's a whole bunch of these a-holes that are causing some grief here. And this is not about whether we believe or don't believe. It's how we're going to react to the new restrictions that are put in place. And we need to adapt. It's just that simple. Retail is still going strong. Retail is still in a good place, not a negative place. And the biggest new question for an Alberta retailer, and we should first maybe pay some respects to those food and beverage that government's going to kill with this next month of restrictions in their, in some cases, best time of year. But retailers are not in the same place as food and beverage. Food and beverage is closed, retail is not. The only adjustment for us in retail, Rob, is occupancy. And this math. Oh yeah, math. Here we go. Haven't I been saying forever? You got to know your math.
Totally. Yep.
Well, now you really do need to know your math and not be scared. I talked to somebody last night that said to me, does this mean I'm only allowed 2 customers in my store? And I said, no, that's not what this means. You need to know what your capacity is. You need to know what your load occupancy is. And this comes directly from your building code or your fire code. It's posted in your store. It's not as small a load as you might think. And so here's the simple calculation. You take your total square meters, excluding washroom and backroom areas, just your square meters of your showroom, divide it by 3.7, and then multiply by 15%. You got to know your math. This is the math. I mean, here's a quick example. If your showroom is 15 meters by 15 meters, that's 225 square meters, or ballpark 740 feet.
Yeah.
So I've got a 740 square foot showroom. My occupancy is 9 people, including my staff. If my showroom's 1,500 feet, your max occupancy is 18 people. It's not as small as we think it is. And we're getting sort of caught up in the, oh my gosh, instead of saying, okay, hang on a minute, let's use some numbers, let's use a little bit of data to tell us the truth here. Hey, I'm in a 1,500 square foot showroom. Never mind my back room. Just measure your showroom and say, hey, here's the calculation. It is total square meters divided by, divided by, holy cow, here I am messing up math. Divided by 3.7 times the 15%.
Yep.
A 1,500 square foot showroom can have 18 people in it. How many of our 1,800 or 1,500 square foot showrooms can actually hold 18 people shopping comfortably? Not really that many. And are we really faced with that much traffic in our store at any given minute through the normality of the day, through the normal day, not in your peak on Saturday afternoon, but your normal operating time?
Yeah.
18 people is a good number to have in our store.
It sure feels like, and they were pretty pointed in their press conference that in the springtime that they allowed the big box retailers to really thrive during that time, and this 15% rule honestly is going to hit them really, really hard. Where to your point, and I think 15% is probably that bit of that normal flow, outside of a couple spikes through the week, right. and to take that step back and say, you know what, it is going to be hopefully, fairly normal traffic for you. Right. And, back to that communication opportunity where, hey, you get an opportunity to reach out and say, would you mind coming Monday afternoon and, try and flow them at different times during the week.
Yeah, book appointments. There's tons of free booking opportunities. If you want to book an appointment in your store, if you want to give somebody exclusive access to the store, make it convenient for them. Do it at 6:00 at night or 9:00 in the morning. There's tons and tons of opportunity here. Yep. We can't get caught up in like I said, you can't change the way shit smells, brother. You just got to be able to deal with it. You adjust and adapt and realign and stop bitching and complaining about it. This is an opportunity time. The more time, more energy we spend on the woe is me, the less opportunity you have to satisfy your customers' needs, and your bank account's going to feel it.
Yeah. Well,
and listen, here's the last piece of advice I gave retailers yesterday, was, hey, these restrictions don't come into place until midnight Sunday. You better be prepared for a busy Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, maybe even it starts, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know, but be prepared for a busy weekend.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Okay, our next story comes out of Vernon from infonews.ca, a story about Lego. And I joked that not everything is awesome in this particular story. It's based on these small retailers that have, really relied on Lego being part of their product mix. And obviously popular toy, and newsflash, I'm not sure when it hasn't been popular for the last while, but they get caught in this moment where all of a sudden the product supply is running low. They're not getting it, but that sense that all the big boys are, which in this particular story, Lego disputed and said, we'll have none of that.
Right.
We have a common friend, Dan, that we need Laszlo to come in with, he'll be the Lego savior.
Laszlo could satisfy a few stores with some product. We're going to have to tag him in our story.
He's a small municipality's worth of Lego.
Yeah, he does. He does. More than most retailers have, big box retailers.
What are your thoughts here, Dan, when you read this story?
Man, planning. I feel the pain for these retailers. And here we are again, allowing a headline to sort of dictate the theme of the story. This is not big bad manufacturer, big bad Lego choosing Canadian Tire or Walmart over the little guy. This is just about planning. I feel the retailer's pain here. In fact, I see it on a regular basis. There are segments of retail that are doing extraordinarily well. And to the degree that they plan, predict, remember that short-term prediction is a key leadership trait in any business, not just retail or big box retail, but the ability to predict an outcome, to predict my sales volume. And to the degree that these retailers take the appropriate calculated risk, they're maximizing opportunity. And while I don't have an answer to the actual Lego shortage, i.e., I think it's obvious, probably COVID has something to do with it. Remember what happened back in 2000. When did the Lego movie come out? I don't know. Was it 2015 or something?
That 2014, 2015.
2014, 2014. But the Lego movie drove a ton of Lego business that the manufacturer couldn't keep up with. Yeah. And here, Mexico is where most of the Lego, I think, is produced. And they were on stay-at-home orders. Factories shut down as non-essential. And so it does impact your supply chain. But this is more about, Lego supplying the retailer that put the order in. And, this retailer, or one of the retailers in this article, pointed out they've got many other things for customers.
Right.
And when I said at the beginning of this diatribe, planning, it is effective, accurate planning would probably change this retailer's perspective. And planning, merchandise planning, inventory planning is no easy feat on your own. Knowing what to buy, how much to buy and when to buy on pure instinct is like tiptoeing to the edge of a cliff,
right,
and taking a leap of faith and not knowing whether that backpack has a parachute in it or on your back is a parachute, or this backpack full of overdue invoices. This is all about accurate planning. And we can't find out on the way down whether we bought right or didn't buy right. Merchandise planning accurately predicts your revenue, sales. It accurately predicts your purchasing requirement or your stock to sales requirement. It helps us make better decision on the way we price and sell product. It forces us to take actions that impact our performance. Who doesn't want to achieve increased sales, reduced inventories, and more cash? That is merchandise planning. And we've never really come out on the podcast and said, this is what you need to do. But you need to be planning your merchandise. Instead of saying, woe is me, we've seen this trend coming. We knew that this was going to be a big holiday season. Home decor, candles. Oh my gosh, candles is probably the number one category in home decor right now. We're seeing this trend and we have this ability to predict what those revenues are. Instead of saying, woe is me, it's celebrate the fact that you planned effectively, you took the risk that calculated risk that protected some cash, and you grew some sales. And if you sell to extinction, man, oh man, isn't that euphoria? Isn't that what we all want? Sell to extinction?
When you look at this story, Dan, the planning for quantity, I'll ask the question, what are your thoughts on the planning for, I'll just use the term, the hit 'em where they ain't, right? You're in a category that all the big boys carry these lines, maybe, planning towards trying to carry things that they don't, or what are your thoughts along that line?
Yes, for sure, Rob. This is about gap analysis, but more importantly, it is about analyzing the performance of a category in your store and fulfilling that category or class of information, right. Class of inventory. A class is an assembly of products that sell on a similar curve. When we talk about toys, we break toys down, right? Board games, construction, education, role play, artistic. We can break down this toy category the same way we break down an apparel store, tops, bottoms, tank tops, graphic tees, novelty tees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when we fulfill that category with products that definitely fill a void in the marketplace, we capture market share. All right. And this is not about, I'm going to feed Canadian Tire over Joe's toy store, get an entire plan for it.
Yeah.
They're using intelligence that's available to the independent retailer. I don't care if you're $250,000 a year in revenue or 25 million. You need planning in your life. And planning will steer you, not constrain, steer, push, force you to take risk and make decision that impacts your business appropriately.
Right on. Speaking of planning, folks, a reminder, this podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. Let them help you make that plan. Find that cutting-edge retail solution today. Visit retailbycrs.com. From the latest point-of-sale software to merchandise intelligence, and boy, we're hearing a lot about that this morning, finding that intelligence in the data, the open-to-buy plans, and more. Folks, they're here to help, so definitely go check them out when you have a chance. Okay, Dan, our next story from cbc.ca. I know I got a little eye roll on the headline there, but it talks about these local businesses being stretched to the limit and stretched a lot by the good and the bad, where there's this influx of wanting to support local. And you mentioned candles, and there's a part of this story talks about a candle maker that's just killing it. But the story talks about they just weren't set up for this type of model, and they're dealing with it on the fly. What do you think about when you read this story?
Well, I can tell you what my first instinct was. It was cry me a river, adapt or die. Seriously, are we really complaining about the increased revenue? And then in one hand, talking about this increased need, people calling me, wanting to buy things from me. Oh my God, spare me the trouble. People calling me, wanting to buy things from me, and me saying it's 2 or 3 times as much work to fulfill an order. Yeah, so be it. Align or die, man. Realign or die. You have an opportunity to sell someone something that takes a whole lot less effort than it does in person. Someone's picking up the phone. Do you have this book? Yes. Can I buy this book? Yes. Okay. Now how do I got to get it to them? How do I need to fulfill this? And it's really not. I feel like I was harsh at first when I read it, when I'm like, cry me a river, adapt or die. It's just that simple. Stop bitching and complaining about an increase in workflow to capture a sale. And I mean, largely this was bookstore driven, perhaps, not the best online example or someone that would have any kind of a strategy to do business online. But we do need to align our processes to be distribution instead of frontline in-person sales. And hey, it's much easier to work, on your own timeline or own hours of operation in this opportunity, versus I'm only allowed to see customers 9 to 5, and I'm only allowed in my small bookstore 4 people at a time. I can manage a whole lot more sales when I think about distribution or fulfillment versus retail sales.
Right.
And I know it's difficult to plan for this, stuff, but now we see how she is responding. And this is giving us insight in how to better plan our vision for 2021, realign some of our efforts to be better at fulfillment, which maybe we've not been great at. Maybe we've taken it for granted that people will walk in our front door, peruse our aisle of books, hand select one book, come up to the till and buy it. Maybe now they're buying 2 and 3 books. It's a necessary evil in surviving today's world. And you've got to adapt. You've got to adjust. I mean, you can call it pivot, adaptation, whatever we want, whatever, 2020 word we want to use, right? You've got to be able to adapt to this workflow. And listen, we can walk through any bookstore in St. Albert and see that they're going to be challenged and that maybe they're not set up. They're set up, like a library, rows and rows and rows of books. Maybe it is more difficult. So be it.
When you talk about that setup, this is more of a general retail question with this shift happening. What's your thoughts, Dan, on the mix within the store? And I'll just use some generic numbers. If 2/3 of a traditional store was your display shopping area in the back with storage, do you see that mix changing in the future to allow more for that, the assembly line, the deliveries and such? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, of course we do. Of course we do. And we're going to realign, how much do we need for back office and how much do we need for front office or showroom space? Yep. And this is going to have an impact across the landscape. It's going to change every single person that's connected to it. It's going to change real estate rates. I'm not going to pay $40 a foot for backroom space. And maybe now I'm going to try to get out of a high traffic retail area and go to something that's a little bit more commercial, a little more industrial, a little more, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can move to a little more destination. Yep. Maybe it's going to create better opportunities, for me to negotiate a better deal with my landlord to say, hey, look, I'm not really using this much. I'll pay this much for my showroom and this much for my back room, and I'm going to stay. But I'm not going to pay 30 or 40 or $50 a foot for the entire 2,000 feet when I'm only using, 900 as showroom.
Yeah,
and it'll be a shift for the landlords. It'll be a shift for the realtors out there. But hey, they're all big boys. They can take it. Big girls, they got it.
Yeah, they'll figure out a way.
They'll figure it out.
Okay, well, talk about figuring it out. We've taken us into our segment here, sharing some of the wisdom you've got, Dan, and when it comes to retail, and just boiled right down to, I like it. I like the number 5. I like it so much I used it twice in my name. But the 5 rules of retail, Dan. Share those with us. What do you got?
I did it just for you. I said I can't give him 7 rules. I can't give him 3. I got to give him 5. He loves 5. So here's my quick 5 rules of retail. Retail success comes from turning your vision into her reality. Biggest rule, biggest thing we have to recognize. Retail success for us comes from our ability to turn our vision into her reality. You've got to embody this vision. You've got to see it forward and look far enough forward that we make change and adjust along the way. Vision can only be satisfied, by turning it to a reality. Number 2 rule, hire, train, and coach salespeople in your retail stores. Stop hiring warm bodies. Stop hiring fillers. Hire sales people that understand how to connect. We've got to hire, train, and coach. Coaching's an ongoing thing. Yep. Hire, train, and coach salespeople for our stores. Number 3, market share comes from creating ambassadors, not customers. Market share, gaining market share comes from you converting people that walk through your front door into ambassadors, inspiring them to become this raving fan of your store, raving, yelling from the mountaintop. Yep. It's not about selling more customers. It's about creating, more ambassadors. Rule number 4, probably the most critical thing is inventory, and having the right inventory in the right class right now gets a sale. We talk about the right inventory at the right time in the right class. What I really mean is, what is your freshness factor? Freshness factor, the measure of new inventory against total inventory. And an apparel store should be over 30, 60, 90 days, should be 50, 75, and 100% fresh, meaning that in the last 90 days, I have brought in equal to what my current inventory is or received. The fresher your inventory, the higher your sales. Inventory is critical, more critical than any other aspect in your store. And here we are again, talking a little bit about planning. Yeah, totally. You need to plan your inventory. You've got to know what to buy and when. It's not an easy thing. It does take some science. And when science is married with the art of buying, we get this beautiful, profitable, cash-rich picture. Last thing, last rule, number 5, retail is all about the detail. You've got to get down in the weeds. You can't play this surfacey game. It is about the detail. It's about knowing the why something is working. Not the why it's not, but the why it is, so you can replicate it. And Rob, that only comes from jumping down into the weeds. You got to swim down there. There's the 5 rules I have today.
Nice. I like it. Don't have to make it too complicated. Like, just boil. This isn't rocket science, people. Okay, well, I'm going to pick on that one point that I really like, and that's about the ambassadors, and taking to the last story that we have from entrepreneur.com, talking about earning and creating earning keeping that loyalty. And they say 56% of customers stay loyal to the brands which get them. When you saw this, Dan, what popped into your head?
Well, I'm feeling like, gosh, it should be higher than 56. I think 32% is the number. 32% of your traffic today comes from a brand new customer, somebody you've never met. So, doing my math, that tells me that maybe it should be 68% loyal. But listen, nothing can hurt worse, Rob, than losing a customer and not knowing why. And this article talked about, the pain of losing a customer. You've got to be better at this loyalty. And the truth is, loyalty is not bought and sold like a commodity. It is earned. Loyalty begins with trust and continues with respect, admiration, and goodwill, making people feel good. How you make people feel is the biggest contributor to earning better customer loyalty. Customers are being forced to shop differently. They're being forced to make fewer in-person purchases, and retailers that aim to engage consumers sort of beyond this single purchase need to better understand their customers. You've got to know them better and adapt offerings that align with the changing customer behavior. Your customer, the one that's shopped with you for a decade, is now changing her purchasing habits, and you have to change in order to align with her priorities. You want to create and maintain her loyalty, adapt to her new behaviors. And this is really in any business. It's not just retail. If you want to earn my business, adapt to the way I need to do business today, the way I need to shop today. Adapt, adjust, pivot, whatever.
When you talk about the hurt of losing that customer, losing that loyalty, how do a lot of retailers know that, Dan? What's that? We don't quite have the exit interview where we kind of know this is why I left. What do you say to your retailers to try and gain that understanding about maybe why they have lost certain customers over a certain time?
When you want the answer to a question, what do you usually do?
I guess ask the question.
I guess you ask the question. Yep. And you said there's no exit interview. Well, that's bullshit. Okay. There's 100% an exit interview. And if you're not reaching out to your customers and understanding why she's not shopping with you today, do you really care?
Care how so?
Do you really care? Pick up the damn phone.
Oh, no, totally.
Listen,
okay.
If I walk out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I ask it more from a, what are the triggers? Like what would you, I use we don't have an exit interview in that we don't have the black and whiteness of knowing when we've lost them. So what do you build into your ongoing business to say, you know what, you haven't seen so-and-so in X amount of time. Like, do you say you should figure out your cycle? You should know that if you haven't seen them in 90 days, something's going on, and you should have a process in place to pick up the phone, send an email, text, what have you.
Rob, we just said retail is all about the detail and getting down into the weeds and digging in to really understand what makes your business tick. I think I've said for a long time, know your customers. Know your top 10 customers by name. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from your data. It comes from your point of sale system. I'm running my weekly sales report to see who's come in, which identifies maybe who didn't. And I'm not looking for what I don't know. I'm looking for what I do know. And if I run that top 10, top 25, top 50, top 100 customer report every single Sunday morning, I'm going to start to see some routine, some rhythm, some trend. I can see that, Molly comes in and shops in my store 3 times a month or 4 times a year. And, as I start to build this information, I get to know who's coming and who's not coming. And that list starts to expand. And every person on my team that engages with an audience should know who their top 10, top 25, top 50. Look at your customer volume and say, who do I need to know here? I can't possibly know or remember everyone, but I can certainly use some data to tell me that. And when somebody's purchase habits change, I need to find out why. Is it something I did? Did they move? Did I change my assortment? Why does someone stay with me versus why does someone leave? Were they truly my customer? I promise you, Karens of the world, I can track them. I can trend them. I know when they're going to come and when they're not going to come. I know what questions they're going to ask. I know what kind of grief they're going to cause me. And I know Molly, I know how much of a joy she is. And I know how to get excited when she walks in and detract when Karen walks in. I know, I get it. I see it every day in my store, and I need to know who my customers are.
All apologies to women named Karen out there, and
I know Karen. We did not create that. It's a bad rap now. We didn't create it.
Bad rap.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff this week, Dan. Folks, if you haven't yet, head to retailbycrs.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Each week we send out the links to the stories that we talk about. As well, we've got some extra stories, and this week you'll see ones for a lot of the buy now, pay later. We're seeing a lot of stories around that and how it's literally working its way down to the smallest of retailers, providing, that financial flexibility for customers. Story about Canadian mall owners becoming retail owners, where they're forced to, well, here's what we got to do. We're going to actually buy these retailers and keep things going. The IKEA catalog coming to an end after 2021, after 70 years of publication. So, little story there. And great story. We've talked lots about this and really believe in it, just how supply chain data is key to that, what now is that ever important omni-channel success. So, yeah.
Good stuff, Dan. Guys, head over to thewealthyretailer.com, retailbycrs.com, hit subscribe on the newsletter. We'll get you a copy in that weekly newsletter. Of course, the podcast that you can listen to on your favorite platform, anywhere you're comfortable, driving in the car, running on the treadmill, whatever it is you do. And of course, there's always some decent stuff in the newsletter. The team works really hard to put information out, not clutter you up with junk. Certainly, we key off on all of our headlines every weekend. Would love to see you over there on the newsletter.
Right on. Have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, happy retailing.